All right, everybody, I need your complete and undivided attention right now because what I'm about to break down for you represents the highest impact winter storm we've experienced in the last 10 years. I have to go all the way back to 2014 to find numbers that even come remotely close to the ice and snow accumulations we could be dealing with across the Carolinas, the South, and extending back toward the West. There are growing indications that the snow line is trying to shift position, and while that's no surprise to those of us who've been tracking this relentlessly, I genuinely believe we're going to see a dangerous mixture of snow, sleet, and ice. But make no mistake about it, ice is going to be the dominant story here, the headline that defines this event for years to come. Many of you are only going to see ice, but let me walk you through why I think there are signs that some locations may actually see more snow than earlier forecasts suggested. I think Saturday morning we actually have a legitimate chance of starting off as snow and sleet. It'll be light initially, and then as we progress into Saturday afternoon, I believe that begins transitioning over to some heavy sleet. Heavy sleet is going to be the predominant precipitation type for many areas. Sleet takes considerably longer to accumulate compared to snow. It's basically little balls of ice that find their way to the ground, and eventually you start getting meaningful accumulation, unlike snowflakes, which have multiple sides and edges that can interlock and pile up much faster. By the way, if you'd like specific weather forecasts for your region or city, please leave them in the comments. I'll answer them individually as time allows. Also, if you like the video and subscribe to my channel, you'd be very grateful. Now, let's move on. Nonetheless, we're going to experience a sleet storm, and snow across western North Carolina could give us a couple of good hours of accumulation, but that fairy tale scenario comes to an abrupt end by the time we reach Saturday evening around 9 or 10 o'clock. That's when the purple on the forecast maps, which represents freezing rain, begins to take hold. Folks, if I've learned one thing after years of forecasting winter weather in the Carolinas, it's never ever underestimate the wedge in a situation like this. For those of you who might be newer to winter weather in our region, let me explain what the wedge is. It's cold air that banks up or dams up against the East Coast, specifically against the eastern slopes of the Appalachian Mountains. That cold air mass is deep, incredibly stubborn, and extraordinarily hard to dislodge once it establishes itself. That looks very likely to happen and get reinforced by high pressure positioned up toward the north. You never underestimate that wedge setup. It's going to lock us into sub-freezing temperatures and frozen precipitation. I think this is going to remain frozen precipitation and extend farther south than even some of the current model guidance is showing. Does that mean the snow is going to come crashing down and we're going to get that beautiful fluffy snow event we had all hoped for with nothing but snow? Probably not, and I hate to be the bearer of disappointing news. But what this does mean is that areas like Columbia, where it might appear you're somewhat in the clear right now on some model runs, I think you're still very much at risk. Same story with the Atlanta metro area. I think you're looking at moderate to high impacts at minimum. Where I absolutely don't see us escaping ice, snow, or sleet is the upstate, Charlotte, the mountains, East Tennessee, extending back through Nashville, Birmingham, and locations across Alabama. A warm nose is going to work into the mid-levels of the atmosphere, but this is going to be a major deal regardless. I'm seeing a couple of different notable changes in the latest model data that I really want to highlight, and it's the wind component. I'm seeing higher wind speeds associated with this system now. As we move into Saturday night and Sunday, that low-pressure system and the track it's taking represents the icy solution for us, where it essentially passes right over our region. If it tracked a bit further south, we'd be in a snowier solution. But as we get into Saturday night and Sunday, that low is actually going to pass close to us, and because it's positioned closer now, it creates wind gusts that will reach 25 to 30 miles per hour on Saturday and climb into 40 to 45 miles per hour on Sunday. When you combine those wind speeds with what's going to be coating the trees, I am genuinely concerned that we're going to experience widespread, potentially catastrophic power outages. This is probably the biggest test our infrastructure has faced since Hurricane Helene. I don't say that lightly because I know so many people in our viewing area are still dealing with the aftermath and remnants of Helene. I know how traumatic that experience was for countless families. But folks, if there's one thing I know about our community, it's that we've learned valuable lessons from Helene. We understand what it's like to deal without electricity for days on end. The critical difference with this winter storm is that we're dealing with temperatures near or below zero, maybe 4 or 5 degrees above zero at best, in the days following this storm. That's the enormous difference. That's the key takeaway I need you to absorb right now. I need you to find a way that you and your family can stay warm if you lose power after this storm passes, because you're not going to be able to easily drive to just hop in a hotel somewhere. Roads are going to be impassable or extremely dangerous. Let's get back to the meteorological data and walk through the timeline. By Sunday morning at 8 a.m., we're just absolutely getting hammered at this point. Sunday is the day where it just continues relentlessly, and you're wondering, is this thing finally done? Is it over yet? The answer is no. At 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m. Sunday, we're getting into some really heavy freezing rain. The low pressure system is now positioned west of us, and what that's going to do is wrap in some colder air. I think the final portion of this event is probably going to feature some snow. It might look and feel like it's raining outside while everything around you is a complete wintry wonderland. It's going to be brutally nasty cold. We're talking low to mid-teens Sunday evening. But just above our heads at about 1,000 to 2,000 feet elevation, temperatures will be 34, 35 degrees. That's why precipitation isn't falling as fluffy snow until that low pressure moves east of us and wraps in colder air behind it. That's when we start getting accumulating snow, and it could produce a quick burst of decent snowfall accumulation. My preferred solution is the GFS model. It's not perfect by any means, but the European model is positioned farther north. However, it does not remove us from wintry impacts whatsoever. It keeps us locked into ice and substantial amounts of it, even down to the Interstate 20 corridor. For those of you who've been asking me what happens if this system keeps trending north, here's my answer: it's not going to. There are actually signs it's trying to shift slightly farther south. It would not surprise me to see additional southward adjustments in the forecast track. Let me zoom in closer so you can identify your specific location. Where are you watching from? Colombia? Let me know where you want me to mention, because I know so many of you are tuning in from different areas. Some of you want your specific city and county mentioned. I'll do my best. I've got all our counties displayed here, from the Grand Strand to Charleston to Columbia. I know many of you watch from these areas. Charlotte and Metro Charlotte, I've got you covered, and I'm going to keep you informed. Downtown Charlotte and surrounding Piedmont areas, you're my people. Lake Norman, Mooresville, High Point, Winston-Salem, Greensboro, we've got you. Chapel Hill, Raleigh, I know you're watching. All my viewers in western North Carolina, from Catawba County, up through Boone, Avery, Watauga, up toward Madison, Swain, Cherokee County, here we go. I think the leading edge of this system starts reaching into North Carolina Saturday mid-morning. You're waking up and noticing it's snowing. We're off to a decent start with some snow and sleet across the area by lunchtime. It's also possible, and I've experienced this before while broadcasting live outside the station, where we're talking about the approaching storm and you're standing there saying it's coming, but precipitation isn't reaching the ground yet. You keep mentioning it repeatedly, and it takes a while for it to actually materialize at the surface. But by the end of Saturday, we will definitely have it. Once it moves in, it's entrenched. That wedge is setting up, and it's locked in tight. That's why I keep emphasizing not to doubt this wedge setup. Even for Myrtle Beach, in and around Columbia, Aiken, farther south toward Orangeburg, we need to stay extremely focused on this. Athens, Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, this is major. This would continue Saturday night into Sunday. Sunday brings very heavy freezing rain, and then snow starts pushing in across Interstate 85 northward. I wouldn't be surprised if we get measurable snow accumulation Sunday night into Monday. This is going into the record books, folks, unfortunately. Let's examine the snow totals and look at how forecasts have shifted. There's been a definite shift with the 18Z model run, fairly pronounced actually. Comparing it to 3 runs ago this morning and the midday run, we're seeing an average southward shift of 30 to 40 miles. That's significant. Looking closer at our region, we're now showing 1 to 2 inches of snow across the upstate. Not a tremendous amount, but enough to create problems. Then 3 to 6 inches showing back up in the mountains, whereas earlier runs didn't show much at all there. The freezing rain forecast is the really alarming component across all the models, close to 1 inch of ice accumulation. Many models are showing the possibility of significant icing across the Interstate 20 corridor. The sleet accumulation forecasts are certainly within the realm of possibility. 3 to 4 inches of sleet accumulation is absolutely crazy because what happens is it compacts and crushes down, creating an ice rink effect. It's not quite the same as slick glaze ice, but it's also not snow with any traction. It's extremely dangerous, especially when you get freezing rain on top of that, which fills in all the crevices and gaps. You've got a serious problem. The European model is kind of a Grinch as far as snow is concerned. It essentially says no to snow and substitutes ice instead. What's interesting about the latest European run is the moisture transport. It has cut that back substantially. The latest run shows 1 to 2 inches across the upstate, while yesterday's run showed 3 to 4 inches. There's been a downward trend in moisture transport into the upstate region. Less moisture means lower totals overall, but it's still showing 3/4 of an inch of ice with 0 snow across the upstate and western Carolinas. As you go north, it shows quite a bit of sleet, but across our immediate area, it's predominantly freezing rain producing a significant ice storm. Looking at the ensemble forecasts, which average 51 different model runs with slightly varied initial conditions, you're still getting close to an inch of ice in Charlotte. That's genuinely hard to imagine. Half an inch would constitute a severe, devastating ice storm. We're getting signals of over an inch on the European ensembles. When you examine the Euro ensembles for snow, they haven't really shifted much at all. The notable change to pay attention to is the GFS, especially the most recent 18Z run. The ensembles have shifted quite a bit farther south with both the snow and sleet. I think it's safe to conclude at this point that we're going to experience a mixed bag of everything. What's going to provide confirmation for me tonight is the reconnaissance data-fed model runs. That data is processing as we speak. I keep hitting refresh, waiting for it. But as we progress through tonight, I promise to share those results with you across all platforms. Make sure you're following wherever you're watching from right now. The Recon data-fed models are going to be absolutely critical for determining where that heavy 12+ inch swath of snow is going to set up, because that represents the primary moisture stream, the big atmospheric river feeding this system. Either way you analyze it, I think you need to start preparing immediately for a major winter storm. You need to start preparing for what the situation looks like for you and your family if the power goes out and you can't travel for several days. I do not see temperatures warming up until Wednesday, and by warm, I mean maybe reaching 38 degrees. The overnight lows are brutally cold and trending even colder on both the GFS and European models. Thank you for watching and see you next one.